Klaus, a museum docent in Dresden, still remembers the American tourist who confidently informed him that the Frauenkirche couldn't possibly be from the 18th century because Europeans didn't have the engineering knowledge back then. That's why you needed American help in both world wars. Klaus gestured to the Baroque masterpiece behind them, rebuilt stone by stone after World War II bombing, and explained that the original stood from 1743 to 1945. The American nodded thoughtfully, then asked, "But who actually built it? Like, which American architect consulted?" Klaus had to sit down for a moment. The tourist spent the next 20 minutes explaining that all significant European architecture must have had secret American involvement, citing a YouTube video as his primary source. He finally left after demanding Klaus's supervisor's contact information to correct the historical record. Klaus now starts every tour with, "Before anyone asks, Americans did not invent the Baroque period." Petra runs a farm stay in rural Austria where guests help with daily chores. An American family arrived and immediately announced they were basically farmers, because they'd watched every episode of a homesteading reality show. The father watched Petra collect eggs from their heritage chicken breed and interrupted, "You're doing that wrong, you're supposed to check for fertilization by holding them up to a flashlight. I saw it on season 3. Petra explained these were unfertilized eggs from hens with no rooster present, a basic fact she'd known since childhood. He insisted she must have a rooster hidden somewhere because chickens don't just lay eggs without male presence, that's basic biology. She led him to the coop to show the all-female flock. He studied the chickens intensely, then declared one of them was obviously a rooster in disguise, because of its slightly larger comb. He spent the rest of the day trying to expose the rooster's true identity, making what he called rooster calls to provoke it. Petra now includes a Chicken Biology 101 orientation session before guests arrive. Yuki works at a traditional ryokan in Kyoto where guests sleep on futons laid over tatami mat. An American couple checked in and the husband immediately launched into a lecture about how sleeping on floors causes permanent spine damage. He'd brought orthopedic studies printed from the internet and wanted to discuss them with Yuki in detail. She politely explained that millions of Japanese people sleep this way with no issues, and the futons are specifically designed for floor sleeping. He responded, "Well, actually, Japanese people are shorter because of generational spine compression from floor sleeping. It's evolution in action." He then attempted to calculate how many inches of height Japan had lost over centuries, writing equations on his phone. His wife tried to stop him. He ignored her and asked Yuki if she'd noticed being shorter than her grandparent. When she said no, he suggested she might not be measuring correctly. He then pulled out a tape measure and offered to establish a baseline by measuring her height. Yuki politely declined and mentioned that Japanese life expectancy is among the world's highest. He countered that they'd live even longer with proper beds, and tried to order a Western bed frame for delivery to the ryokan. Yuki now keeps a laminated fact sheet about tatami culture ready for such moment. Bjorn operates Northern Lights tours in Swedish Lapland. An American tourist joined a winter excursion and immediately questioned why they were going out at night. Bjorn explained that Northern Lights are only visible in darkness. The tourist nodded knowingly and said, "Well, actually, that's a misconception. The aurora borealis happens 24/7, you just need the right equipment to see it in daylight. I read about special glasses." Bjorn, who has a degree in atmospheric physics, attempted to explain solar-wind interaction with Earth's magnetosphere and why darkness is necessary for human observation. The tourist interrupted, "But the sun is always shining somewhere on Earth, so the lights must be visible somewhere during the day. That's just logic." He then theorized that tour companies only operate at night to create artificial scarcity and charge more money. He proposed that Bjorn offer premium daytime aurora viewing and split the profits. When the actual northern lights appeared that night in spectacular green waves, the tourist filmed them but spent the entire time explaining to other guests that these were just the nighttime ones and the daytime auroras were way more impressive. Bjorn heard him tell someone the lights would be even better at noon tomorrow. Bjorn now begins tours with a short astronomy lesson that he makes absolutely mandatory. Marie manages a champagne house in Epernay where visitors learn about traditional method champenoise. An American couple arrived for a tasting and the husband immediately announced he was basically a sommelier because he'd completed an online wine course. During the cellar tour, Marie explained the second fermentation process that creates champagne's bubbles. He interrupted with, "Well, actually, you could speed this up significantly with a SodaStream. Same principle, fraction of the time." Marie stared at him, then at the 18th century chalk caves surrounding them holding millions of bottles. She carefully explained the complex biochemistry of in-bottle fermentation and aging. He pulled out his phone and showed her a SodaStream advertisement. "See? Carbonation. That's all champagne is, carbonated white wine. You're just gatekeeping fizz." He then proposed she could disrupt the industry by adopting his rapid carbonation method and undercutting competitors. He offered to become a consultant for 15% equity in the champagne house. His wife apologized quietly in French, which Marie appreciated. He continued, unbothered, sketching a modernized champagne facility on a napkin that was essentially a warehouse full of SodaStream machines. He insisted on leaving his contact information for when you're ready to innovate. Marie now includes a segment about why champagne legally must be made a specific way in a specific region, though she knows it won't stop everyone. Dimitri owns a small hotel in Athens near the Acropolis. An American family checked in and the teenage son, who'd taken AP European history, began correcting Dimitri's historical references. When Dimitri mentioned the Parthenon was built in the 5th century BCE, the teen said, "Well, actually, it was probably built way earlier, and they just don't want to admit it because it would mess up the timeline." Dimitri, who studied archaeology at university, asked what timeline he meant. The teen explained he'd seen videos about hidden history, proving advanced ancient civilizations existed thousands of years before mainstream archaeology admit. He believed the Parthenon was originally built by Atlanteans and later claimed by Greeks. Dimitri tried to explain archaeological evidence, dating methods, and historical record. The teen responded, "That's exactly what they'd say to cover it up." He spent the family's entire stay looking for evidence of Atlantean construction techniques in classical Greek ruins, which apparently involved scrutinizing marble for signs of lost technology. He filmed himself presenting theories at various archaeological sites, much to the embarrassment of his parents. On checkout, he handed Dimitri a USB drive containing a documentary he'd made during the stay called The Acropolis Conspiracy: What They Don't Want You to Know. Dimitri keeps it as a curiosity. He showed it at a staff party once, and they still quote lines from it. Ingrid teaches traditional Norwegian cooking classes in Bergen. An American participant confidently announced she was basically Norwegian because her great-great-grandfather emigrated from Norway in 1887. During the class, Ingrid demonstrated proper brown cheese slicing technique. The American interrupted, "Well, actually, that's not how my family does it. We cut it completely different, and we're authentic Norwegians." Ingrid gently pointed out that Norwegian food culture had continued evolving in Norway for 137 years since her ancestor left. The American insisted her family preserved true Norwegian traditions, better than actual Norway. She then criticized every dish as not authentic compared to her family recipes, which Ingrid recognized as heavily Americanized versions. When making fish soup, the American announced real Norwegians use condensed cream of mushroom soup as a base, like my grandma. Ingrid explained this was an American adaptation and showed historical Norwegian recipes. The American accused her of abandoning her heritage and suggested Norway had lost its way culturally. She proposed teaching Ingrid real Norwegian cooking and brought out printed recipes that were clearly from 1950s Minnesota church cookbook. The highlight came when she insisted lefse was supposed to be made with potato flakes, not real potatoes, because that's more traditional. Ingrid now has a disclaimer that the class teaches Norwegian cooking as practiced in Norway, which may differ from diaspora traditions. Hassan works at a spice souk in Marrakesh that's been family-run for 4 generations. An American tourist approached and immediately began explaining how Hassan was organizing his spices wrong. "You need alphabetical order. Customers can't find anything in this system," he insisted, gesturing at the traditional arrangement by spice family and usage. Hassan explained this organization made sense to local customers who understood spice relationships and cooking applications. The American shook his head sympathetically. "That's the problem with traditional businesses, resistant to optimization." He pulled out his phone and started photographing the stall from multiple angles. Hassan watched, confused, as the man created a spreadsheet of improvements. For 20 minutes, the tourist lectured about inventory management, customer flow, and market positioning, all while Hassan served a steady stream of locals who navigated the traditional system perfectly. The American didn't notice. He was too busy calculating how much profit Hassan was losing through inefficient spice placement. He presented a printout of his analysis, complete with graphs he'd made on his phone, suggesting Hassan could increase revenue by 40% through alphabetization. Hassan thanked him politely and set it aside. The man left satisfied he'd helped a struggling traditional business, completely unaware that the souk system had served customers successfully since before his country existed. Hassan added the analysis to a collection of similar unsolicited advice he's received over the years. His favorite remains the suggestion to go digital with spice sales, which included a proposal to create spice NFTs. The most fascinating aspect of these encounters isn't the confidence itself, it's the complete inability to consider that other systems might be equally valid, just different. These Americans aren't being malicious, they genuinely believe they're helping by sharing their superior knowledge. The possibility that centuries-old traditions, professional expertise, or local knowledge might surpass their internet research simply doesn't compute. Next time, Americans who complain to management about problems that are actually completely normal in that country, then refuse to believe the manager when they're explained why.